Hey guys, Stephen here from Vanguard Tactics, and today I've got a very special interview lined up just for you. Now, today I interview Nick Nanavati, and we're going to be talking all things list writing and having a competitive mindset. So in this interview with Nick, and for all of you guys that are not sure who Nick Nanavati is, he's one of probably the most trophied, I would say, individuals there are in 40K, winning the LVO, Nova multiple times, Adepticon, being on the ETC team for the last like 6 or 7 years. So he's an absolute veteran when it comes to competitive play. And what I love about Nick is his ability year after year to still be at the top of his game. So this is an absolutely fantastic interview that I've done with Nick, and probably one of my favorites to date. But what we go over is really the top tips that you need to consider in regards to list writing. So I deconstruct exactly what Nick is thinking, and you're going to get so much out of this interview that I do with Nick. So stay tuned for that. Now, before we dive into this interview with Nick and we cover those top tips for list writing, I have a free ITC course that I'd love you to join. It's, like I said, completely free of charge. It's a 5-part video series taking you through the ITC format. So we cover things like the mission, how to pick secondaries, how to write a list for the ITC, and things you need to consider in order to be successful in the ITC format. So what you need to do in order to get that free course and to get on our membership site completely for free is just head over to the link below. You click that link, it says free video course. A new window will pop up. Just all you need to do is pop your email address in there, and it will get you all the links you need to get signed in to our member site so you can access this free course. There's a little quiz at the end just to test your knowledge, but you're going to get so much value out of that course and really help you take your game to the next level. So without further ado, let's crack on with this interview with Nick. Hey Nick, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, mate, I'm really good, thanks. Really good. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Honestly, it's been you're kind of one of many that I've really wanted to get on the show, so it's a huge honor, mate, for me to get you on and have just a bit of your time, chat about some 40K, mate.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Love it.
So, just for the guys that maybe are listening and they're like, "Who's this Nick Nanavati guy?" Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of who you are and sort of maybe how you got into 40K?
Yeah. So I've been playing 40K for 15 years now. I started when I was 10. My 5th grade teacher, he played 40K, and he started a club for the kids. And I actually had no interest in 40K whatsoever, but all my friends wanted to play. So as a 10-year-old does, they do what your friends do. So
peer pressure.
Started playing together. Peer pressure, yeah. So we started playing together, and I found a local store like 10 minutes from my house. So I started going there to like buy stuff, and I made some friends there. So I started going there on the weekends to like play a game here and there. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. I started playing more, getting into it, writing lists, making codex, reading codexes and stuff. Going to tournaments. I went to my first GT when I was like 14, did really bad. I think I won a game. That was an accomplishment. But I fell in love with it, like I said, so I just kept at it. And over the years, I've gotten better and better. So I guess most of my success has come in the past 6 years or so, 7 years, something like that. I've been on the ETC for 7 years, 6 years on America, and this last year I played for England. The past 2 years I was on the winning team, once on America, once on England, so that's pretty cool. For those of you aware of the American scene, I've won Adepticon, which is a major tournament here. It's like 250 plus people. I've won that 4 times. I've won the Nova Invitational 3 times. I've won the LVO. I won the entire ITC season a year ago. So yeah, I've been around the block.
So you've won a few competitions, mate?
Just one or two. And I started my own coaching program on Knights of the Game Table Pro as well. So now 40K is literally my full-time job. Basically, it's like 100% of my life, but that's fine. Yeah.
Oh,
so that's what I do. I play 40K.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that leads into really nicely as to kind of why I wanted to get you onto, the show today. And also really, I want to pick your brains as somebody that you haven't just been an overnight success. what I love about what you do is something that I respect hugely, which is the long-term dedication.
Yeah.
And, my background is, competing in bodybuilding. It is a long game, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have
You can't take some time off. You'll get flabby and fat.
exactly, there's always like room for improvement. You're always thinking
Right.
critically about how you can improve. And I love it when somebody's really dedicated themselves to really hone a craft. And, you haven't just got lucky on one event because you managed to get the right matchups, you managed to roll pretty well, and you did
Yeah.
okay. You've consistently done well. And that's what I really want to talk about today is I want to find out what makes you tick. And then I want to sort of deconstruct how you think to help
Hmm.
people that are listening to understand, okay, if I can take a little bit of Nick Nanavati to tournaments with me, then they're going to do okay. So I think
Yeah.
that'll be a really sort of nice place to start. So
Yeah.
Nick, why 40K over other gaming systems? Have you played any other gaming systems, and what is it that you like about 40K most?
Yeah. So, like I said, I got started in 40K as my intro to gaming when I was 10. Didn't really have much choice in the matter there. It was really just my friends wanted to play 40K. But that's fine. As I got older and playing at a game store, I obviously was exposed to a bunch of different games and different people. So, I played War Machine. I actually played Dragon Ball Z, the card game. I've been around for a couple other games. I got moderately competitive in those as well. I think it's just kind of like my personality. Um, I saw okay success in War Machine, won like local tournaments consistently, but never really went to larger tournaments. Um, then basically, I went to college. So I was playing War Machine and 40K fairly equally as far as amount of time goes. Sometimes I'd focus on one more than the other, but I was doing both at the same time. And then I went to college, and there was just absolutely no way I could do War Machine and 40K and college the way I wanted to do college. And so War Machine got the Knicks. Something had to go. In hindsight, should have been a university. uh, no, stay in school, kids. Then as 40K in 7th edition kind of got really stale, at least for me personally. I was not a fan of the direction the game was going. And like I still played because I was so deep into it. At this point, I'm so involved. Like by the time 7th edition happened, we're talking like 2016, 2015. I've been playing 40K for like 10 years at that point, 11 years. And I have so many friends within the community. I'm so embedded in the community. Like, I'm not just going to quit 40K or anything. Like, that'd be like cutting off ties to like half of my
It's
friends.
like
I'm just
your
not going to do
identity,
that.
right?
Yeah, right. So, I didn't formally step back from 40K or anything, but I just started playing less because I was less interested. And that's when I started playing the DBZ card game. And that's only because a couple of my friends started playing that as well. And that one, I don't know how, but I just got really good at that game really quick. Like, I was like competing at the world championship, winning 500-person tournaments like within 6 months. It was insane. I want to say that a lot of the skills I have used and learned in 40K translated over to that game. Not really sure how it's possible because 40K is obviously a tabletop game and DBZ, a card game, is closer to Magic the Gathering or something like that. But something translated, got really good really fast. Went to the World Championships, got like, I just narrowly missed top 8, but still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But then that game died, just straight up died. The company that produced it, they like lost the rights to produce it. So
Oh dear.
that just died. And then 8th edition happened, and then 8th was really cool. So back into 40K, here we go, and this is where we're at.
Yeah, mate, that's wicked. And that's kind of like, again, like you've touched on something there. I want people to take away these transferable skills. So no matter what army they're playing, no matter who they might be, whatever event they're at, there's some going to be transferable skills here that hopefully we're going to pick out from today. So, mate, that's you've obviously said, and you've had so much success with so many different events. You've had Nova multiple times, Adepticon, ETC. You've played ITC format, ETC format, Nova format, the lot. So,
Yep.
what are some of the armies? Obviously, you're currently playing Gene Stealer Cult at the moment. You're bringing that to the LGT, which is coming up as per this recording. You took that to the ETC. You've obviously had some great success with that. What are some other armies that you've also done well with, maybe over the last, let's say since 8th edition dropped, just to keep it within a bit of context?
Sure. So over the course of my lifetime, I played almost every army in the game. But within 8th edition, I started out playing Index Hammer, as we all did. And in Index Hammer, it was like the Wild West. You could do whatever you want. There was no rule of 3. You could just take whatever you want. There was not even factions, really. Like the keyword system was barely developed. Like, so I had like 200 brimstones. These cost 2 points back then and could smite at full damage and had a 4-up invul. It was just broken. And I was playing like 10 exalted flamers because that's also a thing, and like 1,000 smites right behind it. It's the most boring army in the world.
Yeah.
I only played it because I was playing it for ETC, and ETC, you're part of a team, you got to make those kinds of sacrifices. So that obviously did really well because I was just cheating, but yeah. After that, I played a really cool balanced chaos army because chaos is like where my heart is, I guess. It had like, it almost like Battle Force here. I ran Magnus, ran 2 units of Berserkers and Rhinos, ran 1 Cultist Blob, a couple Bloat Drones, some Warp Talons. Yeah, it was a really cool army.
This one's a cool list.
Yeah, and I won a tournament in Finland with it actually, so that was neat. One of their like 60-person tournaments, and then I didn't win anything in America with it, but I like top 4 the Nova Invitational that year. I like top 16s the Nova Open. I top 2 Battle for Salvation, which is like a 70-person tournament here. So it was a very strong army, but like it just couldn't get across that finish line. From there, I swapped over to Ynnari because Chaos was falling out of favor with the meta, and Ynnari was straight broken, and I wanted to win LVO. So I just kind of made that soul selling choice to just start playing Eldar.
Yeah.
And yeah, that worked. Straight up 1 LVO with Ynnari, 1 ITC, mission accomplished. Launched my entire coaching business off of that. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Then to continue on the playing what's broken train, I went back to Chaos and played broken Poxwalker spam. This is before they nerfed it to crap. So I had like infinite Poxwalkers, cultists bursting in Poxwalkers for free, OBSEC it was a shit show. I got second place at Adepticon with that. Then I don't really remember what I was playing for a little while. I guess, no, I went back to Ynnari. Even though Ynnari got nerfed in the FAQ that came out, I went back to Ynnari for a little bit. After Ynnari, I went to Tyranids for a hot second, just like Swanlord and Steelers. And then Orcs came out. I got sponsored by Army Painter, awesome company, to paint an Orc army in 3 days because I'm a maniac, and I did it, and got a free Orc army. And then I played Orcs at LVO. That was pretty cool. Not really my style, having now played it a bunch, but they're still strong, and a lot of people find them fun. And then after Orcs, I've been on the Gene Stealer cult train, and I've been rocking this for the past 6 months or so. So as you can see, I'm really all over. I guess there's a strong lack of Imperium there, but I do plan on playing some new Space Marines as we move forward.
Nice. Well, I think that's a good life choice anyway. I'm loving new Space Marines at the moment, and I think that's going to be where I hold down for a while and stick with Marines. Okay, cool. So I think obviously, you've had such a great breadth there, and I think one of the things I picked out of what you just said was that you've always managed to find. You used the term cheating or broken. Obviously, it wasn't cheating at the time.
No, I'm just exaggerating for humor. Yeah.
Okay, so when we say broken, I want to know how you found it. How did you? And when we use the word broken, we're really talking efficiency, aren't we? So they're extremely good for what they do. So you must have a really cool ability to look at codexes, to look at what's popular, and make those decisions that have ultimately led to your success. So what a couple of things that you're looking for when we talk about efficiencies or broken units? What are you looking for from a unit or codex?
So we've actually hit on like a lot of cool topics here. So I'll kind of answer your question and follow up with a different answer. What I look for when I top through a codex is I pretty much start in the back. I read through all the strats, like when the new Space Marine book just came out like last week. I start in the back, I read chapter tactics, I read the warlord traits, the relics, the stratagems, all that stuff. Because just, after playing 40K for a while, you kind of know what the basic units do. I might not know what all of them do, like they just added incursors and impulsors. No clue what those do. Literally, well, I didn't when I first read it, but I know more or less what a tactical Marine can do. So let me see how I can take a tactical Marine and combine it with cool stratagems and stuff. I know what a Smash Captain is. Let me combine a Smash Captain with all these cool stratagems, see what I can come up with. Thunderfires, Whirlwinds, Intercessors. So I have an idea of what the army is capable of. And then I go see how I can apply it. And then I start to create an army. So the other things I look out for that are really good, anything with the fly keyword, probably very good. It's potentially overcosted, but fly is like such an amazing keyword. It'll make a unit good on its own. I really like the assault phase, so units that are fast and good in close combat. I think those are really valuable.
Mhm.
Obviously, units with indirect fire are super strong. That's a really good rule too. Infantry is a great keyword. So these things are just things I look out for. Now, when I say infantry, that's going to be most of the book, of course. But a unit that's a really, really strong unit that lacks the infantry keyword loses a lot of its capabilities. I'm trying to think of a good example here.
Like broadsides.
Huh?
Broadsides. They can't.
Broadsides. Yeah, and them not being infantry is a huge deal, just because
Yeah.
they can't deal with terrain or anything like that. It's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So when you start at the back of the book, and
Yeah.
this is actually something I do as well then, because I'm looking for those exact same things. So do you then, I don't know if you're like me, but I get a notebook out, and then what I start to do is write down cool stuff. So I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the main ability. So
Yeah.
what lacks? So when I'm looking at the Ultramarines, their main doctrine is what I'm kind of gearing everything around. So then I'm picking units that are going to maximize that efficiency, because I know I'm going to get a lot more out of it. So do you do something similar there? Do you take notes? Do you have like a little notebook in?
So kind of, sort of. I don't take notes in that sense of the style. Like, let's take the Ultramarine doctrine, right? It's obviously move and shoot. When you're in tactical doctrine, be kind of stationary.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that has like heavy weapons, anything that suffers from moving, like aggressors, that's obviously going to really benefit from this. Like, it's not going to do much for a basic scout, because a scout couldn't really care less if it's moving or not. But aggressors, Whirlwind Scorpius, that kind of stuff really appreciates this ability. So I just have that in the back of my mind. Those are the synergistic units. What I'll take notes on are those like smaller interactions. So here's an example, and this is very subtle. So White Scars have a million rules to do mortal wounds on 6s when they charge you. So by that I mean they have a rule that's like, when you engage the enemy, everyone within 1 inch of one of your models takes a mortal wound on a 6. Like, you roll 1 die for a guy. So like, if you have a 10-man assault squad and all 10 make it in base contact with 30 orcs or within 1 inch of 30 orcs, you roll 10 dice, every 6 is a mortal wound. 99%ers, myself included, glanced right over that like it was nothing, because it's not really a good rule.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if this does a mortal wound or 2, awesome, but that is not a strategy. Okay, so then I kept reading, and I found another one that I could stack with that first one. It's like, oh, I get to roll 2 dice per assault marine. And then I found another one. I got 3. So I started writing down all the different ways I could stack mortal wounds on these guys. It stopped at 3. So theoretically, though, if 10 assault marines charge 30 orcs, I get to roll 30 dice and do mortals. Now, that's not going to do too much to 30 orcs. But maybe 10 assault marines charging a Riptide, I get on average 5 free mortals on it. So that's not particularly great, but it's like a neat little combo, and it's not something that's easy to remember or like think about. So I'll just take notes on that.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, Space Marines have like 1,000 different ways to slightly buff characters. So I'll just kind of take notes of like how strong I can actually make a captain. Like, if I put this buff with that buff, with this buff with that buff, how many can I put together? And all kinds of little stuff like that. It's very subtle, but that's how, because that's not the stuff I'll just remember. I can remember Ultramarines like aggressors. That's not too complicated. The little subtle stuff is where I'll take notes.
Yeah, I did something very similar, but also looking at you've got your lineates, you've got your powers. So when I'm fighting demons, I straight away know what lineate discipline I'm going to take. I know what aura, I know what psychic power, I know what stratagems I'm going to use, so I can defend myself against mortals. So I think when you start to get specific against, right, I'm playing Genius Difficult, where's my toolbox? What do I need to bring in at this point to help me maximize my thinking capacity, I suppose, when I'm playing these individual armies? I absolutely love that. I think there's some really good bits there. So you sort of mentioned about line of sight, not needing line of sight.
Yeah.
I think that is because it's the ITC format and the ETC now, where bottom levels block line of sight and things like engineers. So are you taking that unit because it's a very good in the mission pack at the moment? And how much does the mission pack influence your codex selections?
So the mission packet does influence my codex selections a lot, not 100%. So some armies are going to be good almost regardless of format. That's going to be the armies that are super flexible and dynamic, like Gene Stealer Cult, like Orcs, those kinds of things. Other armies like Chaos, which are not so dynamic, they kind of just do what they do, and the missions accept that. If it's good in those missions, they'll do really well, and if it's not really good, they won't do really well. For example, Chaos, Jim Bessel, TJ Lanigan list that's running through America right now is like 60 Plague Bearers, 1,000,000 Sun Sorcerers, and then your variation of Terminators, Horrors, whatever. Yeah. That's really, really good in the ITC format because it's so easy to deny your opponent kills because of your units with 30-man Plague Bearer stuffs. So if they just kill 26 plague bears, you didn't kill a unit.
Yeah.
It's really good at getting at least one kill a turn because you have 4,000 smites that'll easily pick up whatever they want. And on top of that, it's a horde, so hold more is really good. So it's just really hard to outscore it. I've seen that list literally get down to like 2 or 3 characters running around the backfield against 3 knights who are still alive and just win by like 10 points because they've scored so much throughout the game. That same army didn't do well at all in Nova in the Nova format because Nova doesn't have that concept of kill more, hold more. If the knight player in that scenario chose endgame, Jim would have like 2 sorcerers running around hiding behind a building trying not to get tabled, and knight players on every objective at the end of the game, so he would just win by a landslide. And ETC is something similar. Now ETC is a bit more all over the place because it's so many different facets to the mission, but scoring a lot progressively through Maelstrom, but then dying and not being able to catch the endgame objectives, not getting any kill points, that's going to hurt you overall, so it's probably not great. So some armies are really good in certain formats, some armies are just really good all the time. Indirect fire, to answer your actual question, is something I definitely look at with respect to a format. If it's like ITC and they have engineers, if I take indirect fire specifically to kill your 10-man guard squad that's going to hold engineers, now you either score like 1 for 4 on that secondary, or I just remove that secondary option from you entirely. So it's really good for that. Also, especially in a gunline type army, which Marines kind of lend themselves to traditionally, or Tau, or something like that. One of the more advanced ways to fight a gunline is to abuse the character rule. Hide units, small little units out of line of sight all over the table, and just have a bunch of characters that are interacting with you, like casting Smite for Thousand Suns or doing something else, and you can't shoot them because there's 5 scouts hiding behind a wall in front of you. So having indirect fire to deal with those scouts first is huge. Like, you literally can't play a pure gunline without having indirect fire.
Cool. No, I think so. That's a really nice then plug-in, is looking for something in your book that goes, that fills this slot. It basically, like you said there, it denies their ability to choose an engineers off you. Anytime I think that you're making your opponent make decisions in the way that you want to do it, I think that's fantastic. You're starting to control the game already there, aren't you? You're selecting what secondaries they're going to take against you, so you know how they're going to play, so you can start to defend against it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I absolutely love that, mate. So I would love for you to describe to the guys. We hear this term, the meta, okay? Yeah. And what, in your eyes, how would you describe the word the meta?
It's so funny because this is actually a question I've been trying to define myself for so long. Like, what is the meta? What not like what's in it, but like, what is the definition of the word the meta? And I don't think I have a good answer. So I guess I'll try to find it.
Yeah, good.
The meta, is, in my opinion, is basically what you're likely to see at a competitive tournament. Now, there's obviously non-competitive metas, but I don't think we're focusing on those.
Yeah.
So that is kind of shaped by what's done well, what people perceive to be doing well, and what makes sense logically. And then there's like an X factor, which is like the innovation factor, I guess, if someone brings something that you don't see coming. So, for example, the meta at Nova, I use Nova because it just happened last week, didn't have new Space Marines because they weren't legal, so no one's taking that into account. There were a ton of Gene Stealer cult players, like top-level Gene Stealer cult players, like 4 or 5 of us in top 16. There was God knows how many Caladiuses. There were so many Caladiuses. The random knights, because every tournament's going to have some knight players. Surprisingly high amount of orcs. Not really high, like there's not that many orc players at Nova, but all the orc players did very well.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. So like that's what did well at Nova, and then there was a Tau army that obviously came in at one, so that would be kind of like the X factor. Now Tau's not totally like a dark horse, it's just like less common. So if you could read the meta going into the event, you would see that top players are gravitating towards Gladiuses and Gene Stealer calls and all that. So you can make predictions that they will continue playing those because those make sense with respect to what everyone else is bringing. Plus, if a top player is bringing something, chances are he will continue bringing that thing unless he doesn't believe it'll work. But if everyone's bringing it, it probably works. So you can study results and stuff and kind of define the meta, but I would use those results as like a guiding system. Like when I design a list, I kind of put it through a litmus test. Like, how do I handle knights? How do I handle orcs? How do I handle Genestealer cult? How do I handle Callises? Over and over and over again. Eldar flyers, of course, until I just go through all of the main ones. And then I'll think of some outlier armies like, well, I have seen this. It's not common at all, but like Magnus and Morty, would that just run right over me? Like something like that. And that's pretty much my litmus test for if my army is good or not, like in my theory creation steps.
Yeah, so from what I've sort of gathered from you there, and I definitely agree with so many things you've just said, is that what you're looking at is within a certain mission pack, what army types do we think are going to be successful because the good players are going to use those because they're more efficient, like you mentioned earlier on. They're looking for those efficiencies, the one that score well. So which are the armies that have got a high probability of maybe going 3-2, 4-1, 5-0? So that's going to be the bulk of the list that you need to be able to deal with. Like you said, maybe there's some knights, some Genestealer cults, some orcs, etc. And then you're looking for this other army. Now, you could either choose to be that other army that beats all of these things that maybe they have in common. So I did really well pre-chapter approved at a GT with Deathwatch because there was hordes everywhere. There wasn't really much terrain at Warhammer World competitions at the GT, and I just rocked up with Storm Shields thinking I don't care about cover. I'm just going to walk through and shoot everyone. And I did surprisingly well with, I think I had 4 wins and a draw with Deathwatch pre-chapter approved. And that really kicked off the whole veterans with Storm Shields, Stormbolter thing.
Yeah.
Because I looked at what was going on and thought, how do I beat all those things? So I think that's really nice. So you can choose to take a meta list, which will do well, or you can choose to take this X factor, which I really love that you've picked out there. So you also mentioned about, you need to be able to deal with orcs. And do you have in this testing, when you're doing your math hammer, maybe you roll some dice, whatever it might be,
right?
Or you use math hammer, for example. What things are you trying to kill in your head? When you say, can I deal with knights, what does that physically look like?
So
I've got 2 las cannons,
Right. So I'll take top lists that I think are a good medium examples of what an orc army or a top knight army or whatever look like. So if we're taking orcs, for example, I would take like a theoretical list of 90-ish boys, like 3 units of 30, just boys, like 60 grots, triple battalion. Toss a Sagnek in there, a super claw boss, 18 smashes, or like 15 ludas and maybe 15 smashes, whatever fits. So like you have to be able to deal with jumping ludas, a jumping Sagnek that shoots twice, 15 to 18 smash cannons, and then 90 boys. Like if you can do that, you got the orc match down. There's variations. Some people run flash kits now. Some people run tank busters. Some people don't run smashes. Some people don't run ludas. Some people don't even run 90 boys. Some people run 200. But you kind of pick an average sort of build, and then like if you can handle that, you're okay. And you don't need to be able to think through every single orc match because your other matches will shore those up. Yeah. So then, like for knights, what's the scariest knight army for me to face? Probably 4 Tyrannus knights personally. So can I beat 4 knights that stand back up? Then let's go over to Genestealer cult with like 20 aberrants and like 1 million Rocksaw guys and flamers and all that stuff. And coincidentally, if I can handle the 200 body Genestealer cult list, by definition, I would be able to handle the 200 model variation of orcs. Yeah. And similarly, if I could handle the 4 Tyrannus Knights, I could handle the more mech heavy orc list as well. So they kind of cover each other as long as you just keep picking the average competitive build for them all.
Yeah, so I always look at things and think, right, Knight's got 24 wounds, is going to have a 4-up invulnerable save, so I need to put through some, if the average damage on a d6 is like 3.5, you can slowly work it back, can't you, to think, right, how many las cannons or missile launchers do I need in order to kill a knight statistically every turn, for example, or whatever it might be, how many smash captains do I need, how many charges do I need to make? And
it's not even that you need to kill all this, because I don't think there's an army in the game that exists that can kill every orc list, every knight list, every gene circle, etc. But you need an answer for it. Your answer doesn't have to be killing oriented. It could be maybe my plan versus knights is to just outscore them and survive, hide behind buildings and just exist on the table. Maybe my plan for Genestealer cult is to eventually get tabled by them, but I'm gonna board control the entire game, kind of play it in reverse, where you go first. You sit on all the objectives. The Genestealer cult has to play his deep strike into corners and fight his way through it all, but you control the table for the entire game, so you'll win that way. So it's not always about killing. And
Okay, cool.
that's a big thing to accept.
Yeah, so maybe using other strategies like move blocking knights and stuff like that.
Right.
How long can you keep them at bay for? No, I love that. I
Mhm.
think that's really, really nice. You can sort of blend those elements together, can't you? Which is, mate, exactly what the game's about. And I think, you've spoke about it a lot before. I've heard in talking how important the movement phase is, and
Yeah.
obviously with that deployment as well. And this must come into your list building strategy, right? Okay, how much board can I control through these certain units? And then I suppose when that comes back to list writing, you may be looking at units such as scouts, Invictus
Mhm.
Warsuits, maybe infiltrators that you think, okay, they might not be the best killing unit, but do they have another role that can function?
Yeah, absolutely. Units that are multifunctional, I value really highly, especially like units with multiple deployment options, like Deep Strike.
Mm-hmm.
If you just have like your classic army that just deploys and shoots someone, yeah, mathematically it might be the best army in the game, but I guarantee you won't win a tournament with it, or at least you shouldn't, because like those extracurricular strategies like Deep Strike charging, ignoring Overwatch, those janky plays really screw you over, and you don't have a counter for it because all you brought is a calculator.
Yeah, no. And do you think that's why a lot of the top players are sort of navigating towards Gene Stealer Cult? Because there's a lot of tricks, there's a lot of kind of outplaying, and it's a very kind of like high skill level threshold list, isn't it?
Yeah, personally, that's why I play armies like this pretty much always. Like my Marine list is not an Ultramarine list. I'm working on like a White Scars army right now
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't. The thing I'm very afraid of, right, is if I bring a calculator to a gunfight and like my calculator is bigger than yours, if I bring a crazy Ultramarine gun line with infiltrators and impulsors, so I don't lose the Gene Stealer Cult because I got tricks like that. What happens when I just run into another Ultramarine player who just went first? Do I just get shot off the board and die? So there's always going to be a rock or a paper to your rock or a scissors to your paper if you just bring a one-dimensional list like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have other elements in your army. So when you run into a equally shooty Space Marine army and you're going second, you don't just die. You need to be able to play your way out of it. So I mean, like Gene Stealer Cult, that's why I favor them right now, because they can always play their way out of something. They've just got so many levels to their army. That's why I'm going towards a White Skull army, so I have more ability to just play with no fallback Warlord trait or just advancing and charging, deep striking, charging reliably, all that kind of stuff. There's more play to it. There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot where I was going with it.
Oh, well, you might remember, but I mean, that's kind of like some incredible bits there. So we've let's just recap a little bit. You're kind of looking at the back of the book, you're looking at stratagems, combos, warlord traits, relics, you're looking at doctrines, you're looking at chapters, all that kind of stuff. And then you're picking these units that you think are going to be efficient. They got some pretty cool keywords that can interact well within the game based on the mission pack. So let's have a little chat about unit size.
Mm-hmm.
So where does something sit? Like, for example, you can take a unit of, let's say, I think a good example here is probably Dark Reapers, right?
Sure.
You can probably take a unit of 3 Dark Reapers, or you can take a unit of 10 Dark Reapers. What is the benefit of taking, should you take smaller ones or should you take larger ones?
Where question.
Yeah, where do we
whenever I pick a unit, it's pretty much never because this unit is efficient. I don't pick units because they're efficient. I pick units because they perform a certain role within my army.
Mm-hmm.
And that role is going to be, in the case of a 10-man Dark Reaper unit, it's going to be synergistically fire and fading through a wall, ideally, so it just keeps shooting all game. They're probably going to want to go into Wave Serpent, so it's really good value for Phantasm and keeps them safe turn 1. Then they're really just going to be there to just be guided. They're probably going to be a really good guide target and just blast a knight turn 1 or lay into 20 Plague Bearers. And they're going to shoot for 6 turns as their plan, just back and forth through a wall. Yeah. If I take a unit of 3 Dark Reapers, the value of getting a fire and fade on them is really low. The value of guiding them is really low. That's not to say they're useless. It's just a different functional unit. 10 Dark Reapers is like a core to an army. It's like almost 400 points, like 360 points or something. Actually, I forgot how much it was. But it shoots a lot, and that's what it does. Mm-hmm. The 3-man Dark Reaper unit is more utility. Like, yeah, it can pop a couple shots off. You probably buy it a Tempest launcher so it can fire some indirect quality -2 shooting. You're not really going to invest in that 3-man, like with strats and spells, because it is 3 guys. But it's there for, like, I have some anti-tank shots, and I have some indirect fire, whatever I need. I can hide it out of line of sight the entire time, or I'm just annoying to kill, even in cover, far away, being able to talk. So it's two different types of units there that function two different roles. Like if I'm taking a 10-man Dark Reaper unit, I'm expecting that thing to knock out a plane every turn. If I'm taking a 3-man, I'm expecting to, hopefully I'll put some wounds on the plane and maybe I'll kill 5 rangers with the Tempest Launcher. So it depends what my list really needs to do and why that unit is there. But like, what weaknesses does my concept have? Maybe I'll plug it up with a 3-man Dark Reaper unit, or I need long-range anti-tank to support my Wraithblade assault army. Maybe I'll put a 10-man in there to supplement that.
Cool. That's a really good answer. I love that. And so you're thinking about your army as being this kind of Swiss Army knife, aren't you? And you're thinking this unit doesn't need to be the biggest chopper on this knife. It just needs to be the scalpel. It needs to be the, like you said, chip off the last couple of wounds if they've got something or other. So I really like that. So then in regards, so that's kind of a shooting approach. What about combat then? So let's say you had a 5-man Vanguard Veteran Squad versus a 10-man Vanguard Veteran Squad with your White Scars. Which way do you think you're going to go there?
So again, it's the same thing. It's going to all come back to usage. Like a 5-man Vanguard Vet Squad is, again, not a great unit for me to invest strats and CP and relics and all that stuff on. So a 5-man is probably going to want to be autonomous, meaning it can function unsupported and go handle small skirmishes with armed units. Like I'll run a 5-man, probably give them all Storm Shields because 2 points in model is stupid, and maybe give one guy a Thunderhammer or something. It's like maybe 100 points. Probably use them to sit behind terrain or deep strike into a backfield. Okay. Try to make a 9-inch charge if I do that. Otherwise, just use the advance and charge tactics of White Scars to move 16 inches towards the later end of the game and go beat up some trash guardsmen or scouts and take over a backfield. Alternatively, if someone comes too close to me with a plane, a Thunderhammer is still not bad at that. And worst comes to worst, it's a 100-point flying screen, which is not great, but it's a flying screen, so it can't get wrapped in assault. So it's a multifunctional unit. Now, a 10-man Vanguard Vet Squad, I'll probably, again, kit it all out with Storm Shields, give maybe 2 guys Thunderhammers, bunch of chain swords, that kind of stuff. That's a unit where I don't mind investing. I might take a chaplain along with this unit to give it some +1 to hit or +2 to charge or something like that. I don't mind casting a spell on it for +2 to charge. Maybe I'll deep strike and charge it, fight twice potentially. Probably not going to look to fight twice with a 5-man Vet Squad. It's just not as valuable. But a 10-man, I'll consider it. And then it completely changes the role of the unit. Like if I'm deep striking a 10-man, casting the spell for +2 to charge, using the relic for another +1 to charge, using the chaplain to give +1 to hit, and then fighting twice, that unit is going to shit up. It's going in to just do a ton of damage. Whereas like a 5-man is more like go beat up that guard squad and try not to get yourself killed.
Yeah, no, so that's what I took from that. And obviously if you're listening back home or watching this, I think what Nick's just said there is knowing exactly why you're taking this unit. So don't just take it because it can do something. What does it need to do? So like you said, the 10-man unit are probably wanting to fight twice. They probably want to ignore Overwatch. They probably want to get the extra charge because they're, like you said, they're like a real powerhouse and part of your army. Whereas the 5-man unit have got a completely different role. But I think a lot of mistakes I see when people write lists are like, yeah, I've got this 5-man unit, but they're trying to put all the stratagems on it. Because they can do it, because the book, there's maybe 30 stratagems, something like that you could use.
Oh, yeah, I think it's more than that. It's insane.
And you could take a little unit and spend a stratagem on each one, couldn't you? But like you said, it's probably better off to go, I'm going to ignore 10 of these and I'm going to focus on these 20.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build around them.
You actually hit on a great topic right there. So I do 40K coaching, obviously, and a lot of my clients right now are playing Gene Stealer Cult. And most of them are just straight up copying my list, which is totally okay. And they're asking me my advice on it. So they'll come to me with their games and you're like, Nick, I wasn't sure what to do in this situation, blah, blah, blah. What do I do here? And they almost feel overwhelmed is the vibe I get, where it's like, there's so many ways I could use my army. Do I deep strike the flamers 3 inches away and shoot twice? Do I ambush the aberrants? Do I deploy the aberrants? What do I do? And I'm like, my answer is pretty much always, you're bringing a giant toolbox in your army list. That's the whole point of playing an army that's not a one-dimensional hammer.
Yeah.
You're bringing a wrench, a screwdriver, a hammer, a scalpel, all this stuff. And you run into a problem. You don't pull out every single tool in the toolbox to solve one problem. You pull out the screwdriver and unscrew the nail. So the skill comes into being familiar with how to use every tool in your toolbox and then identifying which tool applies to which problem. Mm-hmm. After that, it's just going through the motions. Now, that's easier said than done, but you don't dump out the toolbox, try to find the screwdriver, and then do it. You just get the screwdriver out. So it's kind of, that's my analogy.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think that's what we spoke about earlier, you being good at that card game you mentioned. That's your transferable skill right there. It's being able to problem solve, critically think, and understand and evaluate. This tool wasn't successful. What's another one I could try in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
it's totally okay to have 2 units out of your 10 unit army do 80% of the work in one specific game, because that's just the way those units interact with your opponent's units. Maybe all my acolytes don't do anything, but my aberrants are really, really good here. And then vice versa, I'm playing planes. Wow, my aberrants have nothing to charge. Good thing I brought 50 neophytes with mining lasers and some demo bikes. They can probably interact here. So I'll put all my CP into them and none into my aberrants. So it's just picking which tools for the situation exactly.
Yeah.
And investing in those.
And obviously we sort of mentioned CPs. How do you look at, maybe CP usage, building around CPs? Because I've seen lists that are just trying to hemorrhage in as many CPs as they possibly can, but then they're not really left with anything to use them, right?
There's a fine balance to it, and every army is different. If your army has really good, like army defining strats, like orcs with more DACA and Green Tide and Gene Stealer Cult with perfect ambush and lying in wait in those, you probably want as many CP as you can possibly get your hands on.
Yeah.
You also need to back it up with real units. So typically those armies are cheap. Like, Gene Stealer Cult and Orcs both have the luxury of getting really cheap battalions or even a brigade. So you can get a ton of CPs to support your units and still have a functional army. So that's where you see those kinds of things. Like triple battalion Gene Stealer Cult Orcs is incredibly common, and they have units that back it up.
Yeah.
If you have really powerful strats but no CP, like Knights, you may look at allies like for the Rusty 17 or something to supplement that. Other armies like Guard have not really any good strats. Like they have a couple strats here and there you just use because you have them, but nothing to really build around. But they have the ability to get brigades and stuff for super cheap. So if you're playing mono Guard, you actually don't need all the CPs you can get. You probably won't even use them all. Yep. That's when you look into, okay, I can take 3 Blood Angel Smash Captains as the Supreme Command in my Guard army, because my Guard will supply all the CPs in the world to fuel the Blood Angels. Whereas Blood Angels, if you're playing mono Blood Angels, really struggle because they have amazing strats, but a really no way to get CP at all. Yeah. You're going to end up with 45 scouts on the table, and it's just horrible. Yeah. So different armies do things differently. It's dependent on how easy it is for you to get battalions and stuff like that, how easy it is for you to get CP, and how bad do you want CP. I've written lists that don't have battalions. Like Eldar, Eldar doesn't care. Eldar is just like, I just have really efficient guns and good psychic powers. I don't even need command points. I might deck you once. Whereas, like I said, Gene Stealer Cult wants all 18. Play to your army and do what makes sense for you.
Love that, mate. Absolutely love that. Anyway, so just for the take quick, we'll wrap this up. Takeaway, what's your top 3 tips, Nick, for writing a list? If you had to summarize it, you got 2 minutes. What's your top 3 tips?
You got it. You got to have a plan for your list. You don't just take units because someone on the internet told you they're good. Your list has to have a concept. You start with a concept. Like, I want my list to be an assault army. I want my list to be a shooting army. I want to play denial. I want to play board control. Whatever the concept may be, you need to start with the concept. Then you need to not just pick units because math says they're strong. Pick units that make sense for what your concept is trying to do. I take bad units all the time in all of my lists, like mining laser neophytes. No one looks at those and says efficiency out the butt, but within the context of my list, they work great. So I take bad units all the time because it works with my concept. And then the last tip, always be thinking about the game. You don't have to be playing to be practicing. Your off time, like literally right now, well, not right now, I'm in an interview, but like when you're on the toilet or whatever you're doing in your free time, just think about the game. Like, it doesn't have to be your list. It could be like, how does my army match up against this army? It could be like, what am I likely to see the next tournament? How would I approach this specific situation in pointy dawn of war where I can't actually screen? A lot of players don't factor in deployment for their screening. Point is here, just think about the game constantly. You don't have to be practicing to be playing, or playing to be practicing.
Mate, I absolutely love that. And so, Nick, that is, an absolutely incredible interview, and I absolutely love it. Honestly, it's been one of the best ones I think we've ever done.
Thank you, Steve.
Honestly, you've added so much value, and I think if you're listening back home, go back over this, get your notebook, get your notebook out, whatever it might be, whatever you're recording and coming up with these combos, write down some of the things that Nick spoke about, because I think Nick shared some real absolute pearls of wisdom. So Nick, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at knightsthegametable.com. I teach a 40K coaching service. You can get one-on-one help with me where I'm basically your personal trainer, but for 40K, or you can get group help where I teach 5 weekly classes per week, one on Imperial, Xenos, Chaos, Eldari, and just general 40K. I do 1 weekly live stream battle report. So unlike watching a top table tournament game or something like on Frontline Gaming or Games Workshop stream, I go through everything I'm thinking while I'm doing it, like my thought processes behind my moves, why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm not doing what I'm not doing. And then same thing with my opponent. Why is he moving the way he is? Why is he trying to charge this way to pile in that way? Just super in depth so you guys get the full picture. And then lastly, I do a weekly meta analysis called Meta Monday. So every Monday I'll hop on Facebook Live and I'll go over the past weekend's tournament results. I'll review what's done well. I'll review any new upcoming releases like the Psychic Awakening, the FAQ, the Spaceman Codex, all that stuff. And kind of show you how the meta is going and how to change your armies or adapt to it and what you should be looking out for. So you can check that all out. It's called Knights of the Game Table Pro. It's on knightsthegametable.com. Check it out. See you guys there.
And you've got a new podcast, Art of War, as well, which is on the front.
Oh, yeah, we do. Thanks. So I did just also start a new podcast called Art of War 40K. Basically, I just go around interviewing top players. It's a 2-part podcast. Part 1 is all the strategy from a top player and their list. So last week we had, I believe, Richard Siegler, who just won the Nova Open. Yeah. We brought his Tau army on. We went through all of his strategies with his Tau army, all the ins and outs of why he took what he took and whatever. That's episode 1. And episode 2, which is for patrons only, goes through all the tactics. Like, so how does he deploy specifically against Chaos? What strats does he use specifically against Eldar? Like, all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you handle this horrible matchup? What is your approach to it? All nitty-gritty stuff. So check that out. It's called Art of War 40K, AOW 40K.
Love it. Well, Nick, thanks so much again, mate, for coming on. And hopefully I can get you back on in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to, Steve. Thanks for having me.
And I'll see you in about 2-3 days' time.
Yeah, see you soon.
All right, mate. Anyway, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.